It's great having you with me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. Today we're going to talk about teaching your child to fight fair. This is episode 150. Most of us have this deep-seated sense of fairness. And so you'll hear a kid go, "Well, that just wasn't fair. That just wasn't right. That really bothered me because that wasn't fair." Yeah, all of us just have it innate. We have this deep sense of it in us. Some of us have it more strongly than others of us, to where it really goes against our grain or really tears into our spirit when things are unfair. We tend to be the people who fight for the underdog and stand up for the underprivileged. Yeah, some of us really have that in us. But in general, kids don't want to fight fair. They'll use every advantage they can get. Frankly, humans don't like to fight fair. If you doubt that, I just want you to take a look at the war over in Israel, where, sometimes they'll just bomb school buses or blow up people in the middle of a square. I'll never forget in Afghanistan, about 3 blocks away from where I was standing, someone strapped bombs onto themselves and blew up an entire city street and killed something like 39 people. And I felt the ground shake and saw some of the aftermath. Yeah, people really don't fight fair. Blowing up little kids and women. If you're having a war, go shoot the guy you're specifically mad at. Don't just blow up people in general. So, what I'm telling you is people don't fight fair. Kids don't fight fair because they're people too. You want your kids to learn how to have a fair fight. They're going to have fights. It's a fact. It's going to happen. So, you need to teach them how to have a fair fight. That might sound funny to you, but I'm hoping you're going to appreciate the value of what I say to you before we're done today. Okay? And perhaps some of this will be applicable in your own life too. It just might actually be of some help to you. So, one of the ways that we don't fight fair is we bring the whole trainload of baggage to bear on this particular discussion. Instead of sticking to, you didn't show up at 5 o'clock last night when you said, in fact, you didn't show up until 7:30, you didn't bother to text or call. Like, you are so rude occasionally and so wrapped around your own little world that you forget commitments that you make. And it is really inappropriate to leave everybody else sitting around waiting for you for 2.5 hours for something that really wasn't meaningful at all or important, but you just forgot. Yeah, that's not okay. See, that's sticking to what happened. You're never on time. You always forget. I remember in 1974 when you didn't show up, and you did it again in 1982, and I remember in 2007. Uh. Knock it off. Stick to the topic at hand. Really, because that's not fair. Don't bring this whole weight of crud behind you. If you're a smart person and you are living in a home, pardon me, that sounded rude, really. If you are living in a smart manner within your home so that you are addressing things as they come up, you don't even need to have this whole trainload of junk behind you. And in a fair fight, you don't bring it with you. You stay on topic. What happened? The very thing that happened that you're upset about. I've had this discussion before, and I'm going to remind you, and I'll even send you back to that episode. There is a difference between an issue, in other words, something which happens repeatedly over and over and over and over again, and an event. In general, though, fights often start off or are triggered by an event. So a fair fight is stay with the event, deal with that thing right there. If you need to make a call during that fight and say, there has been a repetitive pattern here, and I'd really like to address it, not right now, but within a day or so, I would like to go to the issue. But for this moment, we're going to stick with the event. Yeah, you can do that. It's very appropriate. But stick with the event, okay? Don't insult someone. I'm really very sensitive to insult because most of the people in my family, that's exactly where they go, and they make it very personal, and they're nasty, and it's no reason to do that. I try to be very, very, very intentional and extremely sensitive to my language, so I'm not insulting. I don't really want to insult someone. All right. Insults that are personal are things like, you are so stupid. You are such an idiot. You are such a pervert. You are such a moron. You are such a jerk. You are such a witch with a capital B. You are such a son of a witch with a capital V. You just you are, and just more and more and more down to being personal. Okay. Not a fair fight. No, absolutely not. Name calling, insulting someone, being rude, being personally critical, that escalates it farther and farther out of control, but it doesn't contribute anything or help find any resolution. Those are not fair fighting tactics. Okay. It is definitely not fair to take something that you have over them. And I'm not going to use illustrations here because they probably would apply to too many people, but just not to take something that you have over them, and we all probably understand that language, and use it right there. So, power as a parent or power as an older sibling, or I know about so and so, and I could certainly go tell mom, or I could tell your boyfriend, or that is not fighting fair. You do not misuse power in any way, shape, or form when you're having a fight with someone. That's not fighting fair. It isn't fighting fair to hurt someone on purpose. In other words, we all know those that we love the best, their most vulnerable places, the places that really hit them the hardest. Kids are notoriously bad for this. So they tend to do this really badly. And I mean, I worked at a Christian school and I was out on the schoolyard and I heard things that absolutely made my soul cringe and my skin crawl with kids who were great friends of each other, and they would use those very things that would hurt each other the most. And this is really human nature. So get a kid to understand that is not fighting fair. You do not hit someone the hardest right in their most vulnerable place when you're in the middle of a fight, thinking that's going to give you the upper hand. When I was younger, I never gave in about anything. As I shared, I came from a family where we were right. I was right. Everybody in the whole house was right. And oh my lands, the fights we had. That was what I knew best. I will never forget. At 19 years old, I was reading this book and I read this quote. I can't even tell you who it's from because I don't remember. But I remember the quote by heart and I've never forgotten it. This is what it said: giving in is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of character. That pretty much revolutionized my world because I never gave in about a single thing. It doesn't mean, as we've discussed this week, since we've been discussing these kinds of things, that you have peace at any cost. Some things are worth fighting for. But when someone just wants to fight, they walk in the door and they're ready to fight. Rather than fight, don't. I'm serious as anything. Don't. It's pretty much impossible to have a fight if one person won't. My kids learned that growing up when they weren't allowed to physically fight. They find out for a lot of kids when they wouldn't fight back, the fight stopped. You can't have a fight by yourself very well, especially not a verbal one. The person won't talk. There's no fight. When you give in, when you just look at someone and say, okay, that really is a sign of character. It's a sign of personal strength. It's a sign of personal self confidence. Yeah, I'm just not going to fight you about this. You don't even need to say those words. Inside yourself, you already know it. That really is a sign of strength and character. I got that one. It's really made a difference in my world. So, your kids need to find out what's worth fighting for. And there's not a lot worth fighting for, very truthfully. I realize our whole world is full of it, but there really isn't. Unity and cooperation is worth a whole lot more than I'm right and I beat you in this fight, whether I beat you up physically or I beat you psychologically or I beat you down emotionally. Wow, that's a bully. That's a jerk. I can say that one because that's a clear call. That's an abusive somebody. That's not a decent human being. And we want our kids to be decent human beings. And so they've got to know how to have a fair fight. I already discussed this somewhat earlier in the week, but I want you to really have a broader, deeper, fuller understanding so that your kids can learn how to have a fair fight and you can help them learn how to do that. State your point of view as clearly and as concisely as possible. Try to hold it back to a few sentences. This gets you to think, oh, which slows down your emotional processes of anger and frustration. And yeah, so it really does help. Get a hold of what the issue is, of what happened and how it affected you, and state it within a few short sentences. Talk about your emotions. I was angry. I was hurt. I was frustrated. I was disappointed. I was sad. Whatever. State your viewpoint and then listen as the other person states theirs. Okay. Don't be afraid to call someone on junk. They start getting rude and insulting and they escalate it and they want to tell you about 20 things. No, I'm not listening to that. You need to speak to me calmly. I spoke to you calmly. I don't intend to sit here while you insult me. I'll get up and leave the room and come back in 5 minutes, but no, you're not going to insult me. You're not going to bring up things from 10 years ago because that has nothing to do with right now. We're going to stick to the topic. Any of those things may be brought up by either party. You can call someone on their junk. You don't have to sit there and take it. You can establish firm boundaries and live within them. That's a fair fight. Seek resolution. What are we going to do about this? Well, perhaps I'm just going to look at you and go, that is absolutely the truth. I acted like a jerk. I was late. I didn't call. I didn't text. It was so inconsiderate of me. It was terribly rude. It demonstrated that you and everybody else in the family were not that important to me. I am so very sorry. Please, please forgive me. Admission of, I guess we'll use the word guilt. Sometimes it is the appropriate word. Sometimes it is just acknowledgement that I hurt you. Maybe I really didn't do anything wrong, but it upset you. Okay, so acknowledgement that I hurt you. And still, please forgive me for hurting you because I love you. I don't intend to hurt you. That's not how I want to live. Okay. Sometimes it is a matter of recognition that the other person has overly sensitive feelings and nothing wrong happened, but you were hurt. It was related to something else. I have the opportunity to show compassion and understanding. I'm not really sure that what's going on is what you're describing to me or what happened between us. What else is going on? Don't expect a 4 or a 7-year-old to have this kind of perception. But I hope and pray if they've been doing this their whole life and you've been doing it with them, by the time they're 14 or 15, they're going to have this kind of perception and say, it seems like maybe there's more here. You want to tell me what's going on with you? No kidding. You might even be able to do that for your mom or dad, and they're in their 50s or 60s. You cannot believe how well this works. Once you really understand the dynamics of a fair fight and you start using these, I guess we'll call them methods or skills, it goes a long way in the kinds of relationships that you have. So you want to teach your child to fight fair and what that looks like and what that means. And oftentimes it involves compromise and some kind of an agreement. The next time that we have an appointment, because I do tend to get busy, and it's true, and I can be a little bit self centered, will you please send me a text half an hour before? And then if I'm not there, you can really rake me over the coals. But it's setting up a way to help this not to get repeated and everyone else to be frustrated and hurt and angry. Or I acknowledge to you I'm pretty consistently late. I'm pretty disrespectful of other people's time. This is something I really need to work on, time management skills, and I'm going to start that. I can't tell you what that's going to look like yet. This probably involves things I've got to learn, and this is a long-term habit pattern of mine. It's going to take some time. So I'll work on it. In a couple weeks, I'll come back to you. Maybe you can even give me suggestions or ideas. That's a compromise. That's starting to lay down some ways to come to resolution with something. Okay? We humans, oh my word, we're prone to fight. We are. You should learn how to do it fighting fair and help your kids learn how to have a fair fight as well. My challenge question for you today is this: do I know how to have a fair fight? Because if you don't, I guarantee your kids don't. I hope this has been a lot of help to you today. I will look forward to seeing you again really soon on Paint a Beautiful Picture. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.